Okay, I wanted to record one more tax calculation problem so that we have one more example to take a look at as we go back and study on our own. This one's a little bit different. I wanted something that wasn't going to look the same as the last one we did. And so this time the filing status is different. We're going to be head of household this time. And you can see in the upper right, if you can read that or zoom in on that, this is for someone who's unmarried but paying more than half of the cost of child support for a child or parent. There's a couple of differences here. For this one, we're in a different column because we're filing as the head of household. So instantly, I know I'm over here in this column rather than in the single column like the last problem that we did. We have no adjustments this time. And so you could just as easily put $0 there for our adjustments. We have itemized deductions, but unlike last time, we also have a tax credit this time. So when we're done with the calculation, we've calculated all the taxes this person owes. Then we're going to subtract that $6,000 off the end. And so kind of our roadmap for these tax calculation problems, it's always find the taxable income, right? So first thing we want to do is find the taxable income. Then the next thing we want to do is find the income tax owed. And then we want to remove tax credits, if any. And so that's kind of our process to solving this. It's kind of a three-step deal. First, we find out how tall our pile of cash is. Then we find out which parts of that pile of cash are being taxed at which rates, and then add together all that to find out how much income tax we owe from that year. And then if there are any tax credits, we remove them from the last amount. Okay, and so remember our taxable income that equaled my gross income minus my adjustments minus my deductions. But remember, it's the larger of the two, whether it's the standard deduction or the itemized deduction. So as we do this calculation, that number, we're gonna do a sum, and then we're gonna choose the larger of those two values. Okay, well, let's find that number. So my TI, my taxable income, is my gross income, which was $72,000. We're getting that from right up here. So my gross income is $72K. My adjustments are $0. So literally, I minus 0 there. I write it there just to show that I know that I'm doing it, to show that I know what I'm doing. You obviously don't have to put that there, but it does show me that you knew that you needed to remove adjustments, but there were none. Then for deductions, I want to add those two values together and then compare them to the standard deduction for the column that I'm in. And pretty obviously, we're going to use the standard deduction, right? Because 4,500 plus 2,000 is 6,500. And so that's 6,500. 6,500 is less than 18,800. And so I'm going to use the 18,800. So I'm going to go minus 18800. Okay, so let's go to our calculator. 72,000 subtract 18,800, not 15. 18,800. That's why these calculators that show us a history and show us what we've typed are so much nicer. There we go. And so our taxable income here is $53,200. All right. So I know my taxable income is that $53,200. And again, I kind of like my visualization of my pile of money maybe I just like thinking about piles of money, It could be a useful thing to have from time to time. And so I've got my pile of money there, and my pile of money is $53,200 tall. And it starts at $0 and goes all the way up to $53,200. Well, when I look at my $53,200, that's actually going to make this calculation a little bit easier because, well, it's a lot more than that $14,200. But then the next value on my tax bracket here is $54,200, which is just above my $53,200. And so my $53,200, it places me in the second tax bracket. It places me in this 12% tax bracket. And so I have a line here at $14,200. And then my next line is the $53,200. And so I'm only being taxed at 2 different rates this time. I'm not actually being taxed at 3 different rates like the last problem. I have the pile of money up to the $14,200 taxed at the 10% rate. And then I have the up to the $53,200 taxed at the 12. That's just bad. The 12% rate. So when I go to write this down, I'm going to convert that percentage to a ratio. So I'm going to write down 0.1 because I'm going to divide by 100 to convert that percentage to a ratio. And then I'm going to multiply by the height of money from my pile that's in the 10% bracket. Well, it's the entire bracket, so it's the entire $14,200. Then I'm going to add to that my 0.12, that's my 12% converted over to a decimal. And that's going to be from the 14,200 up to the 52,000 or 53,200. And so that's going to be the difference between those two, right? Because I don't want to pay taxes twice on that first 14,200. So I take that 53,200 and then I remove from that part of the pile the part that I've already paid taxes on in the calculation above, because I don't want to pay taxes on that first $14,000 twice. Then I add those two values together, and I get 0.1 times 14,200 plus 0.12 times, then I have 5,3,200 minus 1,4,200. Then I kind of scroll around, make sure that I got things typed in correctly, and hit enter. And I get $6,100. Feel like this is going to be part of a late night infomercial. But wait, there's more. Because we're not quite done yet, right? We've done part 1 of our table. We found the taxable income. We've done part 2. We found the income tax owed, which is this part, but we haven't applied our tax credits. And in this problem, we were given a tax credit. If we kind of zoom in here, we were given a tax credit of $6,000. And so what I need to do back here is I need to say, okay, my income tax owed will be the $6,100 minus my $6,000 tax credit. And so I actually owe $100 in tax because of the tax credit I got from the year before. And so if I'm boxing an answer and turning in an answer on an exam, that's the answer I'm turning in for all of that work. Which is part of why I worry more about the work and the process that leads to the answer even than the actual answer. Because it's real easy to do a quick little typo up here when we type into the calculator. Getting the right answer is important. It's a large part of the problem. But knowing how you got the right answer is even more important. All right. I want want to fill that in just because. Hope that helps, and hopes that helps us understand these tax problems a little bit better than we already did.